great to you today? Have you been blaming him lately for the things that aren't great? Heavenly Father, Lord, I pray right now that you show your infinite and awesome greatness. Thank you for doing that in our lives. Thank you for doing that in our moments. But Lord, right now, I just ask that you would show up right now and break down walls that people didn't even realize they had. Holy Spirit, come. Let this be an act of worship as we come together to hear about what you want to tell us. Thank you. Open our ears to hear, God. Open our hearts to receive. In your awesome, wonderful name. Amen. If I told you that 3 weeks ago I prepared this message, I would totally be lying to you, as I finished it around midnight last night. Not out of procrastination, but out of inspiration. I had a totally different sermon prepared. Same thing, but different. Do I have somebody on the scriptures? Thank you. And let's turn the lights up. Because this is not a humdrum sermon. This isn't going to get you down. This should inspire so that you can go out and create. How many of you know that victims have a personality where hope is hardly visible? Anybody? Anybody ever experienced that, where you're looking through your life and going, where did I place my hope? How about in situations where you've lost hope? Maybe you know someone and they need Jesus, but you've lost hope that they can ever be saved. How about you know someone who needs to be forgiven or has to apologize, but you've lost hope that they would show up in that situation? What about the glass half empty type aspect? See, victims tend to go, well, the glass is not full. That's the personality of a victim. In a victim, fear is one of their most accessible attributes. Fear has built their character. See, in a victim, they have embraced the discouragement that people have spat at them. And they hold on to it for dear life because that's what they're worth. See, a victim holds on to what is not true. A victim holds on to the lies that people tell them or that Satan has inspired in them. See, victims hold on to it can't get any worse until it does mentality. Rather, a victor sees the light at the end of the tunnel. And they have that hope for the light at the end of the tunnel. And they hold on to the encouragements that others are placing on their lives, that God has shown them in their life. See, a victor stands above the destruction. A victor looks down and goes, we can rebuild. The victor says, it's not enough, Satan. You haven't torn me down enough. Why? Because you haven't taken God out. Let's dig. You ready to dig? I'm ready to dig. That means we're going to open the Word. If you have your Bibles, I want to start encouraging you to bring your Word. Why? Because it's your sword. Why? Because you got to take it with you. If you go to battle and you don't have your sword, who's going to win? You got to have your sword. Whether it's up here or in your hands, you got to have it. Hide thy word in where? Put it in there. Stuff it full. Your heart needs to be just stuffed, packed full. It's like that closet when you were a kid, when you had to clean your room and you just packed it full of all your junk. And then mom and dad would come in and you go, see, it's clean. And they'd open the closet and then your room wouldn't be clean anymore because it'd all come tumbling down. Well, try it once just to see what it looks like. Because you got to pack your heart full so when someone opens it up, they get suffocated with the hope of Christ. Suffocation in the hope of Christ brings on new life. All right, let's dig. Genesis 37, verse 18 says this: when Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance. As he approached, they made plans to kill him. Here comes the dreamer, they said. Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns. Well, we can tell our father a wild animal has eaten him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. But when Reuben heard of their scheme, he came to Joseph's rescue. Let's not kill him, he said. Why should we shed any blood? Let's just throw him into the empty cistern here in the wilderness. Then he'll die without laying a hand on him. Reuben was secretly planning to rescue Joseph and return him to his father. Up until this point, Joseph interprets some dreams he has. His brothers don't like these dreams because he is considered arrogant. You're arrogant if you have dreams about yourself. You're arrogant if they prophesy something good. If you know something good is going to come, you're arrogant. If you're going to rule over someone someday, you're arrogant. That's how people see you. Has anyone said, just wait and see what I become? I'll own you. Anyone ever said, I'll raise my hand. Someone told me once I'd never become anything, so I looked at her and I said, wait and see. I'm going to own you. I'm not going to own them. It wasn't from God. That was my own pride. But has anyone ever said that because they knew God had something bigger for them than what they had for themselves? See, a victor looks to God and says, what's your plan for me? Because I know I'm going to run into some hard things and it's not going to look like that plan that I thought you had for me, but it's going to look like destruction. And so I want to fixate my eyes on who you are and who you said I can be so that I can run the race. Anybody ever think about that? Can you get me another piece of tape? This is annoying. See, his brothers hated him. Why? Well, his father was pretty good at gifting him. His father loved him. Anybody ever have a father who loves you? A dad who loved you? Someone's shaking their head, but do you know Jesus? Yeah, you have a father who loves you. Knock it off. Here's the thing. Their physical dad loved Joseph so much that he gave him a coat. And it was beautiful. It was awesome. And his brothers were jealous. Where's my coat? Anybody ever have more than one kid? Where's my toy? You buy them everything. I don't get anything. I used to be that way. I did. I was the youngest child. My brothers used to be that way with me too. Why you buy him everything? I didn't get any. I had hand-me-downs. I didn't get good clothes. It wasn't until I got a job that I got the clothes I wanted. Does that make sense? I had to earn what I had. See, Joseph was given a coat, and his brothers got mad. And that's after he interpreted some dreams. Who are you that God would talk to you? His brothers hated him. Why did Joseph's dad love him so much? Yeah. But do you think it probably helped that Joseph had a good work ethic? They didn't complain, going, why'd you get him that? Why'd you get my brother that? Why did Benjamin get everything? He's the baby. That's why. I can say that, I'm the baby. His brothers hated him because he was favored because, one, his mom was loved by his dad, and two, we find out later his work ethic was like no one else. How's your work ethic today for the Lord? Are you favored? Is he looking down at you going, yep, that's right, right on. Go get him. Genesis 37, continuing from verse 23, says, so when Joseph arrived, his brothers ripped off the beautiful robe he was wearing. Then they grabbed him and threw him into the cistern. Now the cistern was empty. There was no water in it. Then just as they were sitting down to eat, they looked up and saw a caravan of camels in the distance coming toward them. It was a group of, I'm going to get this wrong, but it's okay, Ishmaelites, traders taking a load of gum, balm, and aromatic resin from Gilead down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain by killing our brother? We'd have to cover up the crime instead of hurting him. Let's see him in these. Let's sell him to those Ishmaelite traders. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." And his brothers agreed. So when the Ishmaelites, who were Midianite traders, came by, Joseph's brothers pulled him out of the cistern and sold him to them for 20 pieces of silver, and the traders took him to Egypt. He's blood, so let's not kill him. He's blood. He's my brother, let's not kill him. Anybody ever been stabbed in the back by a fellow Christian? He's blood. Let's not kill him. She's blood. Let's not kill her. In fact, instead, let's just sell them or throw them under the bus so that they get in trouble. So that they are found out. Anybody ever been called holier than thou? Anyone ever say, "Well, you're just so holier than thou"? Why? You're holier than thou. Yes, I am. Why? Because I know the King of Kings. He's the one that made me holy. It's Jesus in me that you're seeing, not me. The person, because if you saw me, the person, you'd see a raggedy, junky, trashy looking person who's groveling and pleading. Right? That's essentially what the brothers did here. They said, no, let's not kill him. Let's not destroy him completely. Let's destroy him so it hurts longer. Anyone ever feel like that's your life? Like Christians or brothers or sisters come and try and destroy you just because they want to see it hurt more rather than get it over with? Sometimes I thought my parents were trying to do that. That's why my mom would say, "Wait for your dad to get home." You know, the fear lasts a little longer. See, victims find ways to get rid of people who love them. Victims are always pushing away people who love them, or they try to run them dry. How can I get what I want out of what I think I need? Well, I'll just go to so-and-so and I'll get it. I'll just do what I have to do to get it from them, not do what I have to do so I can earn it. It's a get mentality. A victim has a get mentality rather than an earn mentality. I need to earn it. See, Jesus gives us what we need. He doesn't just hand us what we have to have. Does that make sense? Our have to haves are not our needs. But I gotta have it. It's like that commercial. It shows the person that buys it. That just looks like you, right? She buys it looks like her. And then the thief comes in and goes, "Well, I just love this." And the other thief is sitting there going, "Well, that just looks like you." Right? It's not something you have to have. It's something you want. The have to haves in our lives are most of the time what we want, not what we got to have. See, our needs, bills are not needs. Do you understand? Food is a need. Bills are not needs. Food is a need. Do you need food? Yeah. If your bill is a house, that might be a need. So your roof is your need. Your bill is not the need. Does that make sense? As victims, I'm going to say we as victims tend to lay down in our bill rather than our need. Joseph here is being sold. He could look at his brothers after being mocked before this, fallen on what he thought he needed rather than what God needed. See, there's a plan. Joseph has been told the plan. He's been given a direction, but he doesn't know how to get there. And so God is telling him how to get there as he goes. I believe Joseph is probably freaked out right now. Brothers, what are you doing? Come on, don't you love me? I love you. And the reality is that maybe Joseph doesn't know what God needs, but he's getting there. It's God's path, not yours. He could live in a victim mentality. He could be sold to these Egyptians or to these people to go to Egypt to be sold. And he could just be sitting there going, it's over. It's done. God sent me this direction, but now I'm here. I can't do it. And he could live in that and he could dwell in that. See, it could be a victim mentality for Joseph. I've been suffocating in these bills. I'm never going to get anywhere. The world hates me. It's not good. That's a victim mentality. Yeah, these bills, they got me, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to make it work, and I'm going to do this. Hey, you know what? I didn't eat today, but guess what? I ate tomorrow and I ate yesterday. I'm good. I can fast today. Hey, you can't afford to eat. Choose to serve God. You can't feed yourself. Maybe it's a day that you choose to fast. In the moments that you would eat, you would just surrender to God. Surrendering is really living. Surrendering to God is living. It's bringing something new. And we all have it in us. Every one of us have this idea that these things are tearing us down. What drives you? Well, bills. Bills drive you? No. What drives you? What drives Joseph? Is it that he's been mocked by his brothers? Oh, who are you? Or is it that he's been put in a cistern, dry? What are you doing? No, it's not what drives him. See, what God has told him before is what drives him. God's shown him what's going to happen. See, sometimes God tells you what's going to happen, but it's up to you to figure out how to get there. And sometimes someone else tells you what's going to happen, and God shows you how to get there. But if we hold on to a victim mentality, we'll never get there. Think, when God put Gideon in charge of the armies, what if Gideon would have said, I'm nothing, I can't do this? There's no way. Look at me. What if David, short in stature, handsome but short in stature, would have looked at Goliath and gone, What if he would have told Samuel, you picked the wrong guy? I cannot be your king. Saul's your king. Maybe you should go see Jonathan. Would he be embracing his victim culture, or would he be embracing his victorious culture? He would have been embracing a victim. I'm too short. A lie. What if Daniel would have not gone to his room, opened the window, and prayed, but done it in secret? See, it's all in us to become victors or victims. It's in us. God shows you, he tells you, but it's your decision. You get to make it. You do. Genesis 37, verse 36 says, meanwhile, the Midianites, traders, arrived in Egypt, where they sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Potiphar was captain of the palace guard. If it can't get any worse, now he belongs to somebody. Now he belongs to someone. When you feel like you have nowhere to go, nothing to do, like you've been chewed up and spit on and kicked out, there's always another way to find freedom. Steve Furtick says this, and I need you to write this down. If you have pens and papers, I want you to write this down. I thought this was so good. God's presence is guaranteed, but his promises are optional. Now, we've been taught, no, his promises are always there. God's presence is guaranteed. He will never leave you nor forsake you. He will always be there. But his promises are optional based on you. God says, I will be with you where you go, but how far you want to go is up to you. How far do you want to take your relationship with God? How far do you want to take his mission for your life? How far do you want to take the vision he's given you? How far do you want to go with the purposes, the plans, and the successions that he has for your life? Do you want to do something bigger than you? You've got to give up to the vision he's given you. Lord, I see the vision. Help me get there. It's like the whole tree analogy. You start praying for a tree and table, God gives you a tree, but you walk by the tree, you've just ended your vision. But if you look at the tree and go, wow, there's my table and chairs, cut it down, make your table and chairs, you just got a table and chairs. And your vision has grown. Now what, God? Silverware. Okay, there's iron. Figure it out. Right? And sometimes he sends people to help you. What if Joseph would have said, I'm sold to Potiphar. I'm never getting out of this. He doesn't though. He doesn't. You can let your situations dictate your response, or you can let your relationship with Jesus move you to action in your situation. You can let your situation dictate your response, or you can let your relationship with Jesus move you to action in your situation. And if you let your relationship with Jesus direct you in your situation, your response will only smell like God. Your response will change lives. Because if someone beats you and leaves you dead, and you come back for revenge, how does that share God? Instead, if you allow the beating to happen and get up and go pay them tenfold what you think you're worth, that might speak so much more. Crazy. Is that crazy thinking? In our world today, think like the world for a second. Would that be crazy for someone to be beaten, and instead of suing that person, you go and give them what you think you deserve? I'm going to sue him for $1 million. No, I'm going to give him $1 million. What? You're crazy. They just beat you. You're paying them for your beating. No, I'm paying them for the character they allowed me to build because I love Jesus. What's more important? What's the victim's mentality? I'm going to sue them. No, the victim mentality will take you down a dark and lonely road. But if you say, you know what, I love you. And you know what, you're worth more. You might have done me wrong, but I believe God has a plan for you. That's a victor. That's a victor that goes, you know what, I'm going to open the floodgates and we're going to pour out the love of Jesus on you, and you're going to be broken and you're going to be mended and you're going to raise up and be a new person, and you're going to start sharing life rather than death, and you're going to start being the person God has called you to be, and the kingdom is going to get larger while our earth becomes smaller. I don't even know what just came over me. But the Lord says it's in you. Steve Furtick said it. He said, God's presence is guaranteed, but his promises are optional. What promises have you embraced today going, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get there. I'm going to make it happen. And what promises have you said, I'm too short? God doesn't move your 2 feet unless you seek him and choose to move your 2 feet in the will of God. Has anyone just prayed that morning, Lord, I want you to move my feet, and you just waited until he said where to go? Has that happened to anybody lately? No? Yeah? Great if it has. Let's practice it if he hasn't. Crazy, huh? People should be calling me crazy because I'm crazy in love with Jesus, and I'm okay with that. My nickname when I went to Bible camp was Crazy Ben because I was crazy. I had fun. Can't we have fun for God by doing his will, being crazy, sharing the gospel to people who are lost and lonely and defeated? And you go, no, they're lost. They'll never come to Jesus. No, you don't understand. I want to help those who are helpless so that one day they can help themselves in the promises of God. You're here. You're in the four walls of this church. You are the real church, and you're gathered together. There's a lot of mini churches here today. Over 30, counting the students. Mini churches here right now. Do you see that? You have buddies. You have unity with one another. You can go, hey, I want to pray this morning that God directs me where to go, what to say, how to get there, and I want to follow. Will you join me in that? Or you can say, today is a terrible day and be a victim to the world. Oh, I'm not even to the good stuff yet. Oh, it just took me to the top of my notes. That's not good. Genesis 39, verse 2. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did. He served the home of his Egyptian master, Potiphar. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. This pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph the personal attendant. He put him in charge of the entire house and everything he owned. Joseph's situation became better because his focus was not on being owned. His focus was on a greater opportunity, a greater promise. Do you see that? Do you see that? He wouldn't have worked hard if it wasn't for God. He wouldn't have tried hard if it wasn't for God. If it wasn't for the dreams he had, the dreamer, they called him. If it wasn't for him being a dreamer, he would not have ever gone forward with the vision and achieved the goals. Do you hear me? He saw his situation and he said, no, I'm going to do the best thing I know what to do, and that's serve the Lord. And in serving the Lord, I'm going to do my job well. How many of you have a job and never want to quit? Not me. I'm just saying I've been there. I love my job now. I don't want to quit. Okay, Koopy, I'm not quitting. I'm not quitting. You can't stop me. Well, you can stop me, but I'm not quitting. But I've been there. Lola will tell you I hated every job I had until I became a pastor, and then it was like, oh, Lord, help me work with these people. Hey, at least I'm honest. But that's real. When you come in together and it's like two viewpoints and you're like totally opposite and you're like trying to make one purpose, it's hard. There's one goal and you're trying to get there, but you have two ways to get it. And one's like, it's my way or the highway, and the other's like, but this could be so much better. It's hard, isn't it? But that's where God put me. But I made the best of my situation. I moved on, and people were saved, and people came to know Jesus, and they started making a difference in their community. One went on to become a chef, and now he's making a difference in other people's lives, and now the kitchen is all on fire for Jesus. What's up with that? If I would have put my mentality in the situation and just fought, I would have never done anything. If you're living in the situations, the bad situations in your life, get out of those bad situations. Start living in the reality of who God is in your life. Stop living in the situation. Start living in God. Stop living in the situation. Start living in God. That's encouraging. I have an opportunity to stop living in my situation and live for the King of Kings, the one who gives me my needs. Yeah, I might be late on a bill. That's okay, because that's not my need. My need is Jesus. My need is that I get food. Hey, if you have to go hungry because you're paying a bill, I'm not saying miss that bill, but I'm saying seek God and let him direct where you're going and how you're spending. And just because I'm there, I have a mentor who says, where you spend your money is where you put your time. And where you put your time is where you put your passion. Where's your money and passion going? Because we should all be on fire for Jesus. And I know a lot of you are actually spending a lot of time and money on Jesus. And I think you need to hear that too, because Jesus loves you so much and he thanks you for that. Continue doing the work of him. So Joseph's situation becomes better. He chooses to take the action that he believed God would have him choose. And some of us sit down to a sermon and go, yes, oh yeah, that's right, yeah, But in reality, we're sitting there going, that's not me. I'm never like that. I'm always like Joseph. I'm never like the opposite of Joseph. I always choose to slay the giant. Some of us deny how we actually are. How many of us in here have ever had a giant we had to face and we just kind of stepped around that giant? You know, if we're honest, we all raise our hand. We had a giant and we just we're like, I don't want to deal with that right now. I'm going to throw Lola under the bus real quick. I'm warning you, babe. Sometimes we get into disagreements, and I do this too. So I'm going to throw myself under the bus, okay? And we're just like, I just don't want to deal with it right now. Husbands and wives, you know what I'm talking about. We'll come back to it later. 3 weeks go by, you finally come back to it. The husband's forgotten it. Why? Because we've stepped around it. We didn't want to deal with it, so we stepped around it rather than dealing with it right now. And how many times do we do that with God? See, Joseph didn't step around it. He walked right into it. What if Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, after the guards had tried throwing them in, had died? What if they didn't walk into the furnace? What if they would have come up to him and gone, your guards are dead. Come on, throw me in. They might not be here because they didn't put their trust in the Lord. See, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown in, but halfway being thrown in, the guy dies. I'm sorry, but if he's dead, how are they getting in? They're walking in. And then they realize, they're free, they're praising the Lord, and there's a fourth one who looks like the Son of God or an angel, depending on the translation you have. And they're praising God. And then they come out. That's not even the best part. That's not even the best part. They're in a fire and they're not burning. That's not the best part. Wait, they come out and the king, they smell like no smoke. Do you get that? No. They don't smell like smoke. When you're even around a campfire, do you smell like smoke? They've been in it. No smoke. Their situation did not dictate where God wanted them to go, and their eyes were set on the prize. And they said, no. This is my house, and my God lives here, and you can't take that away. And come on, throw me into the furnace because I'm ready to go. And halfway being thrown in, they probably fall short. They get up and they go, let's walk on in. Or hop, if they're still tied, right? And they get in there, and then they stand up, and they're praising Jesus because Jesus is saving their life. Our response is what makes us a victim or a victor. Do you understand that? And if your response in your situations is that of the victim, you're going to blame someone else or you're going to blame something else. You're never going to look at yourself and go, it's here. But a victor will go, it's here, I can improve, let's improve. A victor says, I can go the distance. How do you swing back in your situations? How do you swing back? Do you actually take a physical swing when someone takes a physical swing at you, or do you step into the swing and let them hit you? See, Jesus says, step forward, take the swing, and then get up and show them the other cheek. But it's the third cheek that you have to, right? You get to swing back, right? No. You don't get to swing back on the third cheek. Then you show them the other cheek again and go for it. That's tough, especially for us men. We're taught to fight and be men. But God says, no. Greater is the one that's going to take the punch and serve me than the one who's going to avoid the punch and swing back. Moving on. Genesis 39 verse 6 says this. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing except what kind of food to eat. Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man, and Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. Come and sleep with me, she demanded. But Joseph refused. Look, he told her, my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a great sin against God. She kept putting pressure on Joseph day after day, but he refused to sleep with her, and he kept out of her way as much as possible. One day, however, no one else was around when he went in to do his work. She came and grabbed him by his cloak, demanding, come on, sleep with me. Joseph tore himself away, but he left his cloak in her hand as he ran from the house. Man, Joseph is good at losing his clothes, huh? First his robe and now his cloak. He could be dwelling on that situation. He's running around naked. First it was my beautiful jacket. Now it's all this. I'm just losing it. I'm losing it. I say that every now and then, don't I, Don? Gary hears me. I say that every now and then. They always say, don't say that. Why? Because we're not victims. I'm not losing it. I'm gaining it. Every time I feel like I'm not up there, I focus on God, and all of a sudden it comes back. Our mentality is that we've become losers rather than victors. How many of you have ever said in your life, man, I'm really losing at life, or something to that variation? Man, I owe everybody money. Man, I can never get caught up. Man, everybody hates me. Nobody likes me. Guess I'll eat some worms. Right? It doesn't leave you at 5 years old. It continues going. And you keep on holding on to it. And in fact, you've become so accustomed that when it starts leaving you, you grab it and hold on to it for dear life, and you don't want to let it go. No, I have to hold on to this victimhood because it's what drives me. Drives you where? To feeling like hell is here on earth? Really? But if we have a victor's mentality, we're like pushing it away. I don't want this. I don't got this. No, I'm not going to go after this. I'm going to create something. I'm going to create something because God has given me a vision. It's under God's will that I'm going to go do this. Life got really good for Joseph, didn't it? And then all of a sudden, he hit a big old speed bump. Anybody notice the speed bump? Gentlemen, it's in the form of a woman. Ladies, knock it off. I'm just kidding. But it is. Joseph has control of the situation, then all of a sudden he loses control. What would you do if you lost control of the situation you're currently in? Where are you going to turn? Maybe you've already lost it and you've already responded to it and it's not good and you're not happy with the response anymore because you've heard this message and you're going, I need to retract whatever I've done. I need to figure out my new response because my new response needs to edify Christ, not me. There's still time. When you lost control, did you say, why is it that I can't get a break? Why does this stuff always happen to me? Why do I always fall for this stuff? Am I ever going to change? Are my situations ever going to get better? What's your response? Is your response, the break is around the corner, I'm going to get it. It's coming. This stuff will not always happen to me. It's coming. I'm not always going to fall for this. I'm going to get smart because I believe in the Lord. I'm going to change. My situations are not going to dictate my response. I'm going to have new situations with better outcomes. The second response to all of those is the response we need to grab a hold of and hold on to, because God is found in those responses. He's not found in the response that says, do you say, it's not found in the response that says, why does this stuff always happen to me? God, why do you always put me through this? It's like you're blaming God for a second. Why does this stuff always happen to me? No. If God lives in you, you can't say that. Because if God lives in you through Jesus, you're saying, why does this stuff always happen to us? It's not okay. Then a little something happens. He gets thrown in prison because his Potiphar's wife. Did I miss that? Oh yeah, I did. I'm on to my next notes. Let's read this real quick. Genesis 39, verse 16. She kept the cloak with her until her husband came home. Then she told him her story. The Hebrew slave you brought into our house tried to come in and fool around with me, she said. But when I screamed, he ran outside, leaving his cloak with me. Potiphar was furious when he heard his wife's story about how Joseph treated her. So he took Joseph and threw him into the prison where the king's prisoners were held, and there he remained. See, he lost control of his situation. He had a good life. He was living the life of a slave, but he was honored. He was in a place of honor with his master. He was second in command. And when the master was gone, he was first. And being first in command, he made the right decision when he said, no, you are the only thing he's withheld from me. I do not have authority here. See, he responded to the authority correctly. He didn't sin. He didn't fall to the peer pressures of our world. He didn't fall to a situation that could be worse. No, he saw the vision again. He had the dream again, and he saw it, and he said, this is where I'm going. And if I do this, I'm not going to get there. We're going back to the quote. You'd think I'd remember it by now. God's presence is guaranteed, but his promises are optional. If Joseph would have said, you know what? I'm going to sleep with her, the promise would have been taken from him. I see people looking at the clock. I'm getting close, okay? So in the midst of all this, he's thrown into prison. There are two guys, they have dreams. They go to Joseph. He interprets the dreams. One's a baker, and the other's a cupbearer. A cupbearer. He holds the wine and the grapes. Think of Caesar. It's the guy holding the grapes over him so he can pick one off. Just kidding. That's a funny image. But he's interpreting these dreams, and these dreams, they go to Pharaoh, and one is killed because that's what it is. The baker is killed, and the cupbearer is left. Here you are, cupbearer. I want to honor you. You have your position back. And then Pharaoh has a dream, and everybody comes to him, and he goes and sees everybody. And finally, the cupbearer is like, hey, Pharaoh, I know a dude. I met him in prison, actually. He's still there. Why don't we go get him? And that dude is Joseph. And Joseph comes up to Pharaoh. And check this out. When he hears the dream, Joseph has a little fear. I don't blame him. Look at what's happened over his life. What else can come? His mindset goes from victor to victim for a second. And he goes, if I interpret this dream, it's not a good response he's going to have because the dream is not good. So there's no way. In Joseph's mind, in his human mind, in his flesh, he's probably sitting there going, there's no way this guy's going to leave me living because of the information I have about his dream. Because the Lord has blessed me with that information. Has anyone ever feared to tell someone the truth? I mean, even as a kid, like you cut down a cherry tree or something, right? And you're like, I don't want to tell mom and dad because I messed up. Like your brother punches a hole in the door, but it's your fault because you're the one that antagonized him. I don't know anything about that. And you try and cover it up with a poster. I got away with a couple. Or I antagonized my brother one time so much that he dove at me. Instead, his tooth went into the wall. It was a concrete wall. He actually made an indent. I'm good. The tooth is fine. I don't know how, but it's fine. But you didn't want to tell your parents because you were going to get in trouble. Why? Because you antagonized. Would the other brother get in trouble? Yeah, but you were fearful of yourself. See, Joseph's the same way. He's like, I don't want to tell him this information. He's like dad, and he's gonna discipline me. This is the response. Chapter 41, verse 37. Joseph's suggestions were well received by Pharaoh and his officials. I'm just imagining as soon as he gets the response, he's just like, yeah, God, yeah, finally I got a break. Hallelujah. Praise Jesus. I knew it was coming. I was looking forward to it. The light at the end of the tunnel. It's here. Whoo, I know it. I can just see it. Of course, it's in a different language, so it sounds a lot more funny. You know, when you turn on the Spanish channel, you're like, I don't know what they're saying. It sounds funny. That's what I picture. See, if Joseph did not respond when the Lord needed him to respond, the outcome could be different. Or what if Joseph's response would have been the opposite of how he did respond? See, God's presence was with him continually. It never left him. But the promise was optional, and Joseph knew that. And it was so optional that to Joseph, it wasn't an option, it was a need, and he had to follow the need to see it through. How many of us see God's promises as optional, but in reality they're a need, and we have to have them, but we choose not to take them? Chapter 41, verse 38 says this. So Pharaoh asked his officials, can we find anyone else like this man, so obviously filled with the Spirit of God? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has revealed the meaning of my dreams to you, clearly no one else is as intelligent or wise as you. You will be in charge of my court, and all my people will take orders from you. Only I, sitting on my throne, will have a rank higher than yours. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt. I can see Joseph going, victim mentality. I've been in second in command before. I don't want this. Or a victor's mentality. Praise the Lord. He's freed me from my own transgressions. He has freed me from the transgressions of my brothers, my family. And then what happens? The country goes into a famine, and his brothers show up in need. And he plays a little game. Go get your youngest brother and your dad. Right? They go get the youngest brother, the dad's sitting there. And what happens is the youngest brother is sitting there and he's like, where's your dad? Right? But then he shows himself. And they celebrate. There's this attitude change with the brothers. They're seeing that the dreams have come to fruition. They've come true. That these dreams were not just dreams he was having. He wasn't just being a dreamer. He was being a prophesier. And that things were going to change. And things were going to be different. And that the dreams became true means that he was a victor, not a victim, to the situations put in his life. He didn't look back and go, woe is me! Look at what I've been in. Joseph could have easily played the victim role, right? We all play it. But he didn't. He didn't dwell in his victims, in his victim mentality. He dwelled in the victor, which was God. See, victors are hopeful. The fear is almost completely gone, if any at all. They don't fear anything. Victims embrace encouragement. Did you hear that? Victors embrace encouragement. I think I said victims before. Victors embrace encouragement. Encouragement. Someone tells you, good job. You, thank you. I love you. Thanks. I'm going to take that with me. I'm going to invite Lola up. See, I told you I was almost done. But not only will they embrace encouragement, they'll share it. In their situations, they will start sharing encouragement. Hey, you've got this. Can I help you? And others are sitting there going, you got your own situation. I think I should help you. No, don't worry about that. I've got that. I want to help you. Wow, the redefining of your mind would be miraculous if we as a church said, you know what, I've got situations of my own, but they don't matter because God has got my needs and he'll take care of the desires of my heart. But I have to show you how to do that too. God's presence is always available. We can dig in, reach out and grab it, get it, because it's right there. You don't even have to reach. You can just play the T-Rex game and just grab it. You know a T-Rex? It's real. You can taste the presence of God. Because when you open your mouth, guess what? It's there. But when we just open our mouth and expect the presence of God to come in, but we want the promises of God and we're ignoring the promises, we're not going to have a very good taste in our mouth. Because we've lost the will of God. God says, hey, if you do this, the promise. See, he doesn't even say if you do this. He goes, hey, here's the promise. Will you act? Here's the promise. Will you go? See, you didn't just say, God promised me eternal life, so therefore I have it. No, you said, God promised me eternal life, so I have to act on it. Jesus, come! Be here! I can't do it anymore without you. I'm tired. I'm lonely. I'm sick. I'm broken. I'm focusing on the victimhood of my life rather than the victor of my life. And you are the victor, so I need you. I gotta have you. It's not enough for me to run around and act like I know what I'm doing, but I've gotta have you and know what I'm doing is for you. There's the purpose. There's the purpose. See, victors, they see a glass and others see it half empty and they see it completely full. It's not even half. They see water and they go, here, have a drink. I can get more, don't worry. Don't worry, I can get more. That's full. You see it half empty, that's full. I can get more. And watch out, because if you have a victor in your life, you're bound to overflow with encouragement. You're bound to overflow with not fearing. You're bound to overflow with knowledge and wisdom from God. You're bound to overflow with prosperity. You're bound to overflow with the kingdom life. You're bound to overflow and not be annoyed anymore. You're bound to overflow and have a life that says, I can reach that person. You're bound to overflow and lose all smell because they smell bad. You're bound to overflow and never be hungry again. You're bound to overflow and be in God's presence. Why? Because someone else is living in God's presence and sharing it. Why? Because they're victors. They didn't embrace the victim of their life. They embraced the victories of their life. And embracing the victories, they embrace the encouragement, and they embrace the truth, and they embrace what's going on. It's not their life anymore, because the victory is found in Jesus, and that's where they go to find their victory. Victors face adversity and win, but they knew that. There's adversity in front of you. Do you know you'll win? Because if you don't, you're saying, I don't know if I'm going to win. I might not win. God, please help me win. I'm going to lose. Oh, no. No. Hey, I'm going to win. A shooting happened last week. A church about your size. A little bit bigger. Everyone was shot. Everyone went to the hospital. And those that didn't died. first thought was, how does the pastor deal with that? His daughter's dead, and now his family's dead. How do you deal? He and his wife's response was amazing. Amazing. You know they're having church this morning? Is that a victim mentality? Are they dwelling in the situation, or are they creating a new victory? They're saying, no, Satan, you don't get a hold of me. We came to church this morning. We could have been afraid because, oh no, our church doesn't have security. I don't have a gun. I'm sorry. I'm not carrying. But if I were, I would feel bad for that corner. Here's the reality. We came to church knowing there's no security, but you came to church because you serve a victorious God. I will not step down. I will not back off with Satan walking in the door. I will step up and say, take me, because I'm worth it. Send me, God. Give me the promise so we can reach thousands. You've been given prophecies before that there'll be a line at that door. Make it happen. Go out and get your friends. Don't give them an option. Don't go and say, hey, will you come to church with me? No, go, come on! You're coming with me! And I'm spitting, thank goodness no one's on the front row. But you're saying, come on! You gotta be here! There's no in church. You know, when I wasn't a pastor and I was married, Lola wanted to go to church the times I didn't, and the times I did want to go to church, she didn't, and we took each other. We didn't give each other an option. We said, no, you're coming. Why? Because I had friends pouring that mentality into me that were close. They would say, hey, when she doesn't want to come to church, you got to bring her. And when you don't want to come to church, she's got to bring you. And that's how we lived. Why? Because we needed our family. You want to see more family? You have room for more family? Go get them. Go get them. If you meet them, go, hey, I'm so-and-so. Come. I need more family in my life. Come on, you're coming. No, you don't get it. No, this isn't a free world. Not living in a free nation anymore because we are founded under God, and He is my Savior. I am His slave, and I will do what He tells me to do. And I choose that slavehood. Why? Because I want it. I want Him living in me. I want Him directing me. I want Him fulfilling the promises He's promised me, because they're not optional in my life anymore, because He lives in me. Joseph was a victor in his moments. He did not fear or tear himself down. No, he built himself up because of the promises of God. He responded with hope and joy in the moments of distress and disaster. Are you redefined this week? Have you changed your personality this week to say, there's not enough hope in me, I need more. There's not enough glory in me, I need to give more up. There's too much glory in me, I've held too much back, I need to give it to God. There's too much this or that in my life, I need to start living in the presence of God, flowing in the promises of God. When you're flowing in the promises of God, the fruit is abundant and it's destroying the crud in your life. Do you know that? Like, when you're flowing in the promises, you're starving the temptations because you're following the will of God to get the promises of God. I keep on going. I could do this all day. You got to go to work. Yeah, we're not going to do all day. I know. Man, I don't want to be done with Redefined, but next week is together. We're redefined so we can come together. We're redefined so this moment, this season in our life, we can come together. This is one of the most depressing seasons coming up. Thanksgiving is a family holiday. A lot of people have lost loved ones and they're missing their loved ones, and so they become depressed. And then all of a sudden Christmas hits. My heart goes out to you that have lost loved ones this year, that have lost loved ones over the past couple of years, that this season was one of your most joyful seasons with your loved ones. And my heart cries out for you right now because I want to love you so much so that you don't feel like you're missing them anymore. You're feeling like they're praising God for what's happening. You'll miss them, but how can I make it easier? I was on the phone with Andy Hansen, a couple of you know. I never heard it said this way. I probably heard it like this, but I've never really contemplated it. You want to join the ministry? Ministry is filling the needs of others. Ministry is filling the needs of others. Some of you are doing it. Some of you are sitting there going, I've got a comfy life. I've got a comfy couch. I've got a comfy TV. I mean, there are days when I do it. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying, hey, hold on. Maybe cut your TV time down. Maybe give yourself an allowance of TV time. Or relaxing time, or reading time. And start forcing yourself to give more time to the kingdom mischief of the world that brings people to Jesus. I mean, I'm fired up. You want to come hang out with me this week? Come on. Tuesday afternoon, sometime I'll probably be at the coffee shop. Call me. You got my number. Let's go have a cup of coffee. Let's get a group of people there having a discussion about how God is good and He loves. Hey, let's go to Victoria's. I'll go hang out down there. Let's go hang at the community table if we can find a spot. And if not, let's make a new one. Are you guys hungry? Are you thirsty? Not just for God's word, but for His promises. Not for just the Spirit, but for His promises. Not for just the things going on, but the prophecies that have come into this house and people have said, hey, guess what? You're supposed to have a line at that door. What if God said, hey, you're going to be a part of this ministry and you've just been sitting on it? I'm going to open up the floor. If you've ever felt like God has called you for anything, I want you to come up. And we're going to end. We're not going to do the song. We're just going to end. If you got to go, you got to go. But if God has ever promised you something, if you've ever been called by God to do something and there's a promise in front of you, but you've put it off to the side, we're going to ask God to renew that promise. We're going to ask God to dream with you, to reinvigorate you. You're a church that is great. You are a church that is few. And the town is a harvest that is plenty. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, as people come up and receive prayer, don't receive prayer, Lord, I just pray right now that you would just redefine them in what your word says. Redefine them in the promises that you've given them. Help them get back on track. Help them be the ones that say yes to you and no to Satan. Help them say yes to victory, no to victims. No, we are not victims. We will help the victims, but we are not victims. We are victors, and we will live out victory in Christ. Jesus, we just ask that you would come and destroy our thoughts of what we once were and make us new. Holy Spirit, come. Jesus, we love you. Thank you.